Yo, these new phones, they kill me because literally I was just looking at the camera and it started recording and I wasn't even ready. That's crazy. Today I want to talk about tips. How to get the big tips. I'm willing to bet that this works in any business that you can receive tips. The key to getting big tips is it's not really based on, there's no sense running the car. It's not really based on your driving. And what I mean by that is obviously you can't be crazy all over the road, but I'm talking about average, basic driving. If you drive normal, you get them home safely, chances are at best you get 5 stars, but you don't always get a tip. I found that the way I get tips is you find a specific thing that they want to talk about. Now, I apologize, my eyes are red, my allergies are killing me. You find a specific thing you talk about, but you got to be careful because this could backfire. Specifically, you got to be careful with religion and politics because we're not supposed to talk about those things, because if you get somebody on the opposite end of the spectrum with that, it could turn into an argument. So you got to really feel them out. And then a lot of times you get these people that, I believe there's a set amount of people, particularly more on the Uber side, passengers, that try to game the system. Like, even though they had a good experience, they'll try to 1-star you. I don't know if Uber's giving them some money back or something like that. I'll give you an example. One day, I had a conversation with a lady, and it seemed to be a great conversation. Seemed to be great. She was responding back. After that ride, and I know because I only had 2 rides that day, and I know the first one, it wasn't them. After that ride, I got a 1-star, and they complained, basically saying something about I talk too much. But they were responding. Did I read her wrong? I don't think so. I've been doing this long enough that I usually know when somebody don't want to talk, because they're usually standoffish or they keep their headphones in their ear. This lady started talking to me first. I'm pretty sure it was her, but Uber, you can't even challenge these disputes because Uber won't tell you who did it. So you can't even, it gives you the option to go in and respond and fight it, but you can't because there's no proof of who did it. And by the time you set aside time to actually go in and do it, you've already got at least a couple rides in the queue. I think that was just one of those people, because the same day I got a large tip because I talked about something that that person wanted to talk about. I'm good at finding things that people want to talk about. And even if you're not really that versed on the subject, like I'm not that versed on the current basketball teams, but I used to watch more basketball in the 90s. So I had some young men in the car, young meaning they're probably in their 20s, and they were talking about their favorite, what's going on with the Knicks. And I don't know the players. I don't know all the players on this new Knicks team, but I know the players from the 90s. So they were talking about the Knicks, and I started bringing up the 90s. I used to love the Knicks back in the 90s. And they were born in the 90s, but they obviously watched replays, and they were very young in the 90s, but they remembered a little something. And we went back and forth, and they liked the conversation, and then we switched it to Jordan versus LeBron. And so even though I'm not that good, I'm not that versed on certain sports, I'm able to find something in the conversation that appeals to people. And I got a tip. Another day, and this is probably my favorite subject. My favorite subject is the current state of how AI technology is transforming businesses. And I happen to be taking a software engineer to work. I think that was one of the last times I really was in New Haven. We had a great conversation about AI technology and how he started his own lawn care business outside of being a software engineer. And we started talking about how you could start your own business now, basically, because software is that advanced. You can literally start your own online business. And that's my go-to because I love talking about that. But I think he was taken back because I guess on appearance, I don't look techie, which I'm not, but I'm learning. Even at my age, you never stop learning. And he was taken back by probably how I looked, that I knew as much as I did. Great conversation. That probably was my highest tip that month. It was $20. It was more than what the ride paid. So even though Uber and Lyft is overcharging these people out here, paying the drivers left, overcharging the customers, you'll still find people that can afford a tip. Why? And they're not rich. Because people have abundance of cash they waste. We all do. You know who I'm talking about. You go to Dunkin' Donuts, you spend money on Dunkin' Donuts when you can get coffee and make it at home. You claim you're broke, but yet you go to these places and you do like a whole bunch of numbers you play and scratch offs, and you don't even win. We all have an abundance of extra cash that we waste, and sometimes people will give that to their driver. Even though the ride, they're like, woof, they're looking at how much Uber took when they get home, and they're like, wow, they overcharged me. They still have a few dollars to give to their driver if you can hit that button on a subject that they like and they appeal to. I love movies, particularly sci-fi. I do watch horror. I'm not big on comedies, but I usually keep up on the latest comedies that are out in the theaters. So if somebody brings it up, I know what's going on. Like I said, I'm not big on sports, but I usually try to stay up on who's in the playoffs, or, you know, who's gonna go to the Super Bowl, or, you know what I'm saying? Even hockey, every now and then, I'll see, what's going on. I'll go on the internet and just see what's going on, but I won't watch a game per se. So I'm not a golfer, but I try to familiarize myself with some things in golf. And you got to be versed on a lot of different things to appeal to people. I like anime, which a lot of people are into that you wouldn't think are into it. Just a lot of things. I will touch on religion and politics, but only when the passenger initiates it, because we can get into a lot of trouble because it is breaking Uber and Lyft's terms of service, because they tell you flat out, don't even bring those subjects up. And I don't bring them up, but it's particularly with politics lately. You got to tread on thin ice with politics, because if you get somebody there's people that love the current administration, and there's people that hate the current administration, so you got to tread on thin ice. I usually let them bring it up. Even when they say, well, what do you think? I'm still like standoffish. And my go-to is I'm registered independent. And when it comes to religion, I'm spiritual, but not religious. So you see how I'm always on the middleman on these topics, and I let them pretty much spit out what side they're on, and then I know where I could go. And if they're on the side that I want to go to, then I could continue. But it works, and I'm not the best driver. I'll be real with you guys. I drive the speed limit, or I actually don't drive the speed limit. I'll go 5 miles over the speed limit. But if you notice on these highways, people are going 10, 15. So even when I'm doing 70, I had a lady on the 65. It's on marked 65, but I'm going 70. The lady was like, "Oh, thank God you're doing the speed limit." The last driver was going crazy and speeding. He was doing like 85, and he probably was doing more than that. But I was like, "Yeah, I just drive I drive the same all the time, and I try to give enough distance in between the car." But I'm not the best driver, and I break the law. I'll do a U-turn sometimes. I just don't get caught. 2 days ago, I actually got pulled over, but it was just a warning for, going, I guess, how you come to these stop signs and you yield and not necessarily stop. I did one of those, and the cop pulled me over. Not a big deal, but so I'm not the best driver. I do break minor infractions. I don't get tickets if I can help it. And I find that my biggest tips is just touching on a subject that they like. Like I had a woman that was very religious, very, very religious. And I said I was open to different ideas of religion. And man, the floodgates went open, and people just want to talk, and they want to vent. Talk. She's happy. She was, I think, a Mormon, and they love to talk about their religion. I let her talk. $5 tip. Had another young lady, a more touchy subject. Again, you got to be careful. We were talking about families and the family dynamic, and at some point we got to that she was molested. Yes, the young woman came out and said she was molested by her uncle, but yet in the same sentence said she had good parents. Her parents left her with this uncle. I know it's crazy, but she actually still believed that her parents were good parents because they did what they had to do, but she was left with this uncle. She did get molested, and it was like therapy because I'm giving my interpretation of how these things might happen, and there's no excuse for it for the uncle, but I'm saying as far as the parents, how parents might trust the wrong people at some point. And she gave me a tip, so it's like, had I not said nothing to these people, I would say most of them I would not get a tip. People are just not going to give you a tip automatically just for you getting them there safe, even though that itself should be enough to get a tip. Apologize for some cops going by in the background. I agree that some of you probably are thinking, well, we should get a tip just getting the people there safe, but no. You might get $1. You get them here, they're safe or whatever. But it's all about the conversation. But again, tread lightly. Try to let them initiate whether they even want to talk. Because again, I had a lady said I talk too much and one-starred me. Granted, she just could have been trapping me because she initiated the conversation. But I still got a good record, regardless, good rating, whatever. But that was that one. You just got to tread lightly. Usually people, like I'll give you an example of when somebody doesn't want to talk. When they get in the car and they're like moving stuff around, business people usually. You say, hey, how you doing, sir? What do you think the weather's going to be like later? And then he goes, What? I'm trying to find something. One of those attitudes, leave them alone. Or you'll get somebody that acts like they're hard of hearing. What? I can't hear you. And then you leave them alone. And there's no music on or nothing, leave them alone. So you'll find that you will get clues on whether they want to talk. Or, hey, what do you think this weather going to be like? And they start chatting back, and how you feel about this. And if they bring up, well, the current administration is doing this, what side to go to, But especially with religion and politics, you got to be super careful. Uber and Lyft's going to tell you don't talk about them at all. They're going to tell you don't talk about sex. Obvious reasons. I don't even know if I'll get in trouble for saying that on YouTube. Religion, politics, sports and the weather, you're pretty safe, even if they don't like the team. I find that people really don't care too much about sports. They'll just let you know, I hate them, you know what I mean? But they don't really mean they hate them, Politics, they might really mean it. Religion, they might really mean it, And I don't like when you get these Uber drivers that push their religion on people. I don't like that. You'll get a lot of people that are, Christians or Catholics or Baptists or maybe even Mormon, and they want to push their religion on their passengers. That to me is a definite no-no. You should not be trying to push them or recruit them. But then again, people use it as a gimmick, because I saw on YouTube where that's all one driver was doing, is pushing his religion, and for whatever reason he was getting away with it, and everybody was good with it. So that might be that just one guy that gets away with it. I would not do that. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with anybody that pushes their thoughts on politics. Even if you feel a certain way, don't try to push that or convince them to go your way. I made that mistake one time with a lady, and it backfired bad. We almost got into an argument because I was trying to push my thoughts onto her. You cannot do that. Not only could she could have complained to the apps, and I probably would have been deactivated. Even though it was a simple thing, simple verbal agreement, I could have got deactivated. Thank God I didn't even get a report on that one, but it was a heated exchange. I probably was one-starred. I one-starred her. Hopefully I'll never see her again because I got unmatched. But that was the only time I had an issue with politics. And but people want to talk about their personal life all the time. Who they're sleeping with, who they're not sleeping with. They volunteer that information. One girl told me that at one point she was prostituting, and the guy she was living with now was her pimp. That's why he's so jealous. I didn't initiate it. She volunteered the information. And you got to be careful, because women are quick to say you harass them. Particularly Uber drivers. If you could just say the wrong thing and not be considered sexual harassment. But I've had women, mainly women, tell me about their personal experiences. Men do it too, but men do it in a more playful way. Women have no problem sharing it. I guess I'm like their therapist. You know, let me know your thoughts on. But again, the reason why I said this works in any field that gets tips, because I think it works even if you're a server at a restaurant and you come to the table and you talk about a topic that they like, the likelihood of you getting a bigger tip is more likely than none. That's just my opinion. You can't really do it with food delivery too much because you're not, I guess, interacting with the person too much. But when you're dealing with the public on a one-on-one basis, you're more likely to get a bigger tip. I hope this helps some of you drivers to get bigger tips. It's working for me. Like with this, the way these apps are paying, I'm actually shocked that I'm still getting tips and the apps are actually giving it to me. And you know why? Because these apps are not known for giving them to you right away. They like to hold your tips. But the reason why I brought this video up, or this idea up, because I got a $5 tip immediately after the person got out the car. And that's the first time that's happened in a while, because these apps like to hold your tips. I'm just saying, if y'all listening, you work for one of these apps, we should get our tips all the time immediately after the person gets out the car. They can send your money immediately. You should be able to get your tip immediately. I'm just saying. Thank you guys for your time. Hope this helps. Subscribe, like, comment, click the bell icon, and I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Thank you.